sorry. See, I'll be so glad when the budgets open up and I'm able to get a new camera and I don't have to do all this. All right. Mathematical relation expresses a dependent relationship where one quantity depends in a systematic way on another quantity. In some cases, there is a cause and effect relationship where the cause is the independent variable and the effect is the dependent variable. So we need to make sure we understand the cause is the independent and the effect is the dependent. So, example 1, Canyon Lake will rise 3 feet if it rains 20 inches in the watershed. So what is the dependent situation going on here? And the independent?
The dependent is the lake will rise 3 feet.
What?
The lake will rise 3 feet.
So it's only going to rise if it rains, correct? So this is the dependent and this is the independent, okay? So in other words, how far it rises, how much it rises, that it rises at all is dependent on the rain. In other cases, there is not a cause and effect relationship, but there can still be an independent-dependent relationship. In this type of a relationship, either can be independent variable, which then forces the other to be the dependent variable. So Mr. Green has an arm span of 62 inches and a height of 63 inches. So here, I would look at it generally as if you're tall, you're going to have a large arm span. Does that make sense? But so you could also look at it as if you have a large arm span, then you are tall. Because otherwise you would be like a gorilla or an ape with this short body stature with these long arms, right? And we've kind of evolved from that, right? Some of us look ape-like still, but, you know, here I am. No, I don't have long arms. I have short arms, actually. But, what?
Looking at those boys.
They were looking at me, dude.
Oh, I thought
okay?
they were looking at me for a minute.
Why would they be looking at you?
I don't know, because I'm like the biggest person in the classroom.
Oh, okay. All right. Okay. I guess because you're the biggest person in the classroom, then you got the biggest lips too. Oh, look at that, huh? Do you know that people pay to have your lips? Yeah, they do. You know what they do? Women do. They inject their lips with Botox. Right? Right? Because they want those kissable lips. That's what they are. Never mind. Don't go out and check them out and go be kissing anybody, okay? All right? All right. I got off topic. Sorry about that. Some are generalized algebraic relationships. Example, y equals 2x plus 1 is a function and expresses a dependency relationship. The value of y depends on the value of x. In other words, whatever I put in for x is going to change y. Do you agree with that? Okay. The variable x is called the input or independent value. The set of permissible values for the independent variable is also called the domain. These are very important words. Okay? The variable y is called the output of the or dependent variable. The set of permissive values for the dependent variable is called the what? Does anybody know? If x is the domain, y is the range. Okay? We're going to become very familiar with these words. An independent variable is represented by X, the input, the cause, the first thing. And a dependent variable is Y, the output, the effect, or the second thing that occurs. All right? Flip that page. Example. Canyon Lake will rise 3 feet if it rains 20 inches in the watershed. So what is the independent amount of rain? Dependent?
How much it would
Rising water, right? Or you could write that in a different, a little bit different way, okay? I'm doing it more, how do you say, globally rather than, like 20 inches because, no matter what, the rising water is dependent on the amount of rain. Domain is what's the value for the domain that they've given in the problem. 20 inches. There you go. Now we're going to put that in there. And the range is what? 3 feet. Okay. Mr. Green has an arm span of 62 inches and a height of 63. Now this is one that could go either way, so I'm going to put a line in between that so that I can do, okay, independent. Which one do you want to do for independent first? Arm span. Uh-oh, I can't spell arm. Span. Dependent then would be what? Is height. The domain for arm span was what? And the range for height was? Okay. So now the independent, if we use height, if you're tall, you'll have a long arm span. This is just the opposite way to think about it because rising water can't make it rain, correct? Does everybody agree that? So there's only one way to go with this one. But this one, it really could be said that it could be either way. So then it would be 63 and 62. All right. Is a function and expression y equals 2x plus 1 is a function and expression in a dependency relationship. What is the independent value? X. What is the dependent value? Y. What could we put in for the domain? No, 2 is not. It's a coefficient. It has nothing to do with the variable. What numbers could you put in for the domain? What do we call that set of numbers that we know about in 8th grade math? What is the big?
Real.
The set of all real numbers. That's correct. Okay? So the same goes for the range because dependent on what you put in for the domain, you're still going to get a real number as an output. Everybody agree with that? Yes? No? Maybe so? Okay, so let's do some practice. What we're going to do is we're going to write I equals and P. D equals. Okay? The quality of a musical performance is related to the amount of time of practice. The amount of practice. So what is your independent amount of practice? What is your dependent? Quality of performance. Okay? So I'm representing independent and dependent with an I and a D. So number 2, the amount of peanuts eaten is related to the severity of an allergic reaction. What's your independent? The amount of peanuts. Remember how much peanuts will cause the severity of your reaction to. For some people, it doesn't take hardly anything at all. Severity. Anybody have a peanut allergy in here? No. They're now saying that you should expose your children. I was just reading this recently to peanuts, a little tiny small amounts of to peanut, very young, and little tiny, so that you do that and you increase it as you go, and then that'll keep them from having a peanut allergy.
They said there was just new medicine that you can take, and it helps reduce the severity of reactions.
It's actually called peanut flour too. They've made a peanut flour so that there's just a minute amount of peanuts in a flour, and that exposes them, and so then they won't get that. It used to be a wise tale that the more different things you exposed your babies to, that would create allergies. But I guess they're going the other way now. The effects of hyperactivity is because it's very serious. I mean, I don't know if you have any friends with a peanut allergy, but they can die very quickly, very easily, if they truly have a peanut allergy and they're exposed to anything with the minutest amount of peanuts. The effects of hyperactivity is related to the amount of caffeine consumed. So, what is my independent? The amount of what?
Caffeine.
Amount of caffeine what? Consumed. Amount of caffeine consumed. And what is the dependent? Level of hyperactivity. Okay? All right, number 4. The amount of study time is related to a test grade. Some of you would probably say, no, that's not true. I don't ever have to study. You will. It will come to that. I used to be that way. The amount of study time is related to a test grade. I'm telling you, if you have to study for tests now, it's the best thing for you, because I never studied. All the way through high school, I didn't have to study. If I just sat in class, I could pass everything. Straight A's. Got to college, it was a whole nother ballgame. I had to teach myself to study. Worst thing that ever happened to me. The amount of study time is related to a test grade. All right, amount of study time. And dependent? Test grade. The amount of liquid. How many of you studied for the last test? How many of you did the review? Okay. Doing the review is a study, but then looking over it again the night before is always a helpful thing. If you do it enough ahead of time, one thing that I learned you can always do is you can always cover up your answers and redo the problem and see if you'll come out the same way. Just, All right, the amount of liquid. How many of you study for a history exam? How many study for a science exam? English, reading. Not very many for English, huh? Is there any way to study for English? Have your teachers taught you ways to study?
Depends on what the test is.
Yeah, what the test is about.
Straight vocabulary you can study.
Yeah.
But if you don't know what the vocabulary is, but you could, do you use your strategies usually? No.
I go back and read. I just don't.
On your 8th grade test, did you always drink soda at dinner? Yeah. Did you write it down to remind yourself?
I do.
Tricks like that. That's a strategy, but it's a short one. Sometimes they go hog wild in English, and I think there are way too many things that they're wanting you to do, and that's why you don't end up doing anything. Anyways, I'm getting sidetracked. The amount of liquid picked up relates to the absorbency of different paper towel brands. Independent.
The amount of liquid picked up.
Yeah. How else could we say that? Well, actually, the amount of liquid picked up is dependent on the absorbency. Right? Okay. So the absorbency, and we could write that as absorbency. I'm not spelling that right. Rate, right? Or we could just say the absorbency. All right, is causes the different amounts of liquid to be picked up, right? Of liquid picked up. Most of these are cause and effect, aren't they? The rate of plant growth is related to the color of light to which it's exposed. So, Luis, what's the independent variable here? What? So the type of color or the color of the light directly affects the rate of growth. Okay. I guess that's it, right? On yesterday's homework, I forgot and neglected to say you don't have to solve. Which one was it? It was number 5. You just need an interval written down. That message is for you. You know who you are because you're not in class, and so if I neglected to direct that yesterday, I just wanted to clarify that. Okay, you don't know how to solve an interval, so don't worry about that one. Okay, just write the interval. Have a great day. Bye.